in the waiting room, but once I do, I'll let her
Okay.
in.
Okay.
All right. So it's recording. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to this meeting to talk about the ACL grant and the pop-up cafes. Rachel, if you want to start with the introductions, because I know Jose and Anya are here and they may step out right when we're done with their segment.
Sure. So it may make sense for everyone to go around and introduce themselves quickly so we all know who's here. Esther, do you want to start?
Oh, sure. Hi, I'm Esther. I'm a consultant helping out with this project. Oh, I see somebody coming in. I used to work with New York City Aging as a nutrition consultant, and I have experience with grants, working on a DASH diet grant with Carter Network. And I also have experience with a lot of providers and simple servings, as some of you may heard my name before last year in some emails, but I'm looking forward to working on this. I guess we'll pass it off to you, Rachel.
Okay, hi everyone, Rachel Berger, Director of Nutrition Management, and I am the project director for the grant, and we're really happy to have Esther on board. So I will pass it on to Anya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anya Rosny. I'm the Associate Commissioner for the Bureau of Community Services. And I will sorry, did Jackie go yet? Okay, Jackie.
I did not. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Berman. I direct the research division here at the department. So we'll be working with Manoj, Dr. Manoj Pardasani on this. So I'm going to pass it to Rosemary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rosemary Leahy. I'm the Senior Research and Data Analyst at the Department for the Aging, and I work under Jackie. So I'll be working with Manoj and Jackie on the research component of the grant, and I'll pass it to Manoj.
Ooh. Am I muted? Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Manoj Pardasani. I'm a provost and professor at Hunter College, CUNY. I've been a senior center researcher my entire life. And I'm really excited to be on this. I've worked with DFTA for many years on different projects, different evaluations and research projects. And this is really a very exciting project. So I keep saying that, but I'm really excited to be part of this team.
And Manoj, I was your student at Fordham, by the way.
No way.
Yes, long time ago.
Oh my gosh. I started at 12, I promise.
So do you want to pass it then to Jose?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes, Jose.
All right. Good afternoon. Jose Mercado from the Bureau of Financial Services, and passing it off to my colleague, Ramona.
Good afternoon, Ramona Messina in the Bureau of Financial Services. I will pass it on to Diane.
Hi, my name is Diane, and I'm Senior Program Coordinator at KCS Flushing Older Adult Center, and I work with Helen on.
Hi, my name is Helen An, Senior Director of KCS Older Adult Centers. Last person, Diana.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Diana Delgado, and I'm Chief Program Officer with Neighborhood Shop.
And I think Mohad, right?
Hello, everybody. This is Mohad Attar representing COPO, Council of People's Organization from Brooklyn. Thank you.
Great. So I think that was everyone. And this meeting is being recorded. For those that can attend, we'll send the link to afterwards. So we just thought it was a good idea to meet today to discuss a little bit more about the program, especially with the budget and research components. So as you know, we're a little delayed. The project was supposed to start back in May. We're already in November. So we're hoping that these pop-up cafes could start in December. But because of the budget being only from for the fiscal year, we're only going to have 6 months. We're actually going to have 6 months to spend all that money. So for the first year only, we were thinking that the cafe should be open for only 6 months. And I've told this to you guys over the phone. Diana, Helen, and Mohad, I talked to Asma about it, and they were all aware of that change. But moving forward, we hope to be on schedule. So in year 2, the pop-up cafe will hopefully be open for a full year. And for the following years as well. So again, we're hoping to start this up in less than a month. And during this month, we do have to take time to finalize the sites to make sure they are good sites. I think we only finalized a couple, maybe just one. We have to schedule 1 or 2, right? We have to schedule another visit, Diana, to your site. So I'm waiting to hear back from you. And once all the sites are finalized, we could apply for permits to operate, build the menus, get them approved, and then you guys could purchase anything that you need that's in the budget. But I think it's a good time now to pass it to Jose to talk more about the budget, because I know all of you have a lot of questions about what's allowable and what's not. So Jose.
All right. Yeah, thank you. So we received your budgets from the different programs. We're basically going to have separate meetings with you just to go over we have some specific questions and some of the line items, so we'll go over that separately. Overall, the goal would be is that if once budgets are approved, they will be added to your base contracts here, and then have a separate sub budget for them. So it'll be your base and then a sub budget, and then you can then start basically invoicing based on that specific sub budget. Right to what was mentioned earlier, it's 65,000 for the full year. So you basically have enough, you'll be probably spending, instead of spending 5,000 a month, you'll be probably spending, you can spend up to 10,000 a month for 6 months. I mean, just doing simple math from that perspective. Again, you're going to submit your invoices just like you would submit your regular invoices. You can, instead of having, we haven't decided yet whether we're going to do a separate invoice for this or just have it as one invoice with your regular base invoice. So you have your base contracts, then you can probably, that's the goal. The goal would be probably just have one invoice and just tag it into your regular base contracts at this point in time. We're also going to be submitting to you guys a document, what we consider a budget narrative. We want to kind of get a summary of what you're going to really spend the money on, whether it's food trucks, whether it's a specific pop-up site, things of that nature. So we're going to send you a document like that, so you'll get something with us, hopefully by either today or next week. So you can just give us a big summary of what your intent is of spending the $65,000 for the year. I think that's kind of top level. So the one thing that we definitely will not be spending the money on is renovation. There will be no money used for renovations of these sites. It is mostly used for, again, pop-ups, meals, and things of that nature to get the meals out to the seniors. We will give you a kind of more of a detailed list. I'll send you a separate detailed list with the budget narrative of what is allowable and not allowable. So you'll at least have some semi-balances of what is, you can spend it on. But definitely no renovations of any of the sites or anything of that nature. All right. Or buying trucks or buying this or buying, any, equipment. I would say some equipment, but we'll get there. But definitely no cars, no vans, none of that stuff. Okay. Big top level. Any specific questions? Follow-ups, Anya, anyone that things they're missing?
Jose, if
Sure.
in terms of the equipment, I understand that you said that there'll be follow-ups, but if we're looking for things like a proofer cabinet or something like that, my understanding was that that would not be allowed.
Yeah, no, that's allowed. So like I say, I was just gonna give you like some of those big, I was, like I said, I'm not looking for, a truck, not buying a truck, things of that nature, but all the things that are needed to make food, needed to basically, I would say, transport the food, but not the car itself or a van.
Right.
But
Right, but
wasn't
things
that
like
supposed, that was gonna be in kind, right? The equipment?
yeah, well,
The
there's stuff.
equipment should be in kind, right?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just giving you top level stuff. There'll be when you guys submitted your budgets, we're going to be reviewing your budgets. We're going to be approving them. But we do still have some questions with some of the stuff. Right.
Yeah, I actually have question about in kind. So for the pop-up cafe like equipment, with the 65K is not allowed. Only 45K matching fund allowed, right?
Correct.
And in case, for example, our older adult center baseline contract at this fiscal year is not enough to purchase equipment for matching, because because of the increased over-serving units and like other like baseline the contracted like educational and recreational units. The equipment is not cheap. Equipment is like for example, portable sink is almost $2,000. Proof for cabinet. Other like for example, it's a pop-up cafe. We want to have good quality of, for example, coffee machine or other type of warmer. So equipment itself, costs at least from 7,000 to 10,000 because we have to also purchase a refrigerator. So for matching fund, I am quite concerned.
To me, for example, I don't think you should be concerned because you have you may have staff that'll be working on this that can be charged to that. There are specific things that we can look at in your budget to ensure that you make the match. I'm not too concerned with that. I will help you. Like I said, we will help you go through every single expenses and then match it ourselves. But right now,
so much.
right. So that right now, for example, the goal would be is just to see what you're planning to spend, right? And what's allowable, not allowable. With the match, like I said, we'll help you with the match. I don't think everyone should be not too concerned. I think you guys laid out some good plans in terms of what the match would be. So I'm not too concerned from that perspective.
Jose, if I understood you correctly, it's because it's new equipment that you need to buy and you don't have enough money in your OAC budget to do in kind because they're saying they need to buy a refrigerator that their OAC budget, even though it can be in kind, they could do the match. They don't have enough left over in order to do that. So Helen, what I think we could do is maybe we can look at it and see if there's other types of equipment, maybe like, that might be like maybe Esther and Rachel will know best, as far as, and see if you're okay with it. Like maybe a steam table is cheaper than, I don't know, a warming cabinet or whatever it's called, something like that. Maybe we can play around with like what equipment specifically it is and see if we can bring it down a little bit so that you could afford it this year with the in kind. Does that make sense?
And actually this is also like a 5-year project and it's also food temperature. When you provide food service, always temperature is important, and those refrigerator and warmer should be good enough to maintain the temperature and everything. So
yes, that's
yeah.
Well, I think, for example, like I said, we're going to probably do separate meetings. Everyone, you may have individual concerns. We'll have separate meetings to figure out how we can help you from that perspective. I mean,
okay, thank you.
Welcome. Anything else? Any other questions regarding the budget? Okay, so kicking it back to Rachel and Esther.
Great, thanks, Jose. We will schedule separate meetings with you all, as Jose said. So Esther, do you want to continue talking about setting up?
Sure. Yeah, so thank you, Jose. That was helpful. So for the pop-up cafes, I spoke a little about what we would need to do to set up. But just to go over like the overall goal of this, like we're not setting up an older adult center or a satellite. It's just something different. A lot of times with older adults who aren't in the network, there's a stigma around joining an older adult center. Maybe they think they're not of age to join. Maybe they think like the crowd is not for them. So these pop-up cafes is a way to kind of entice them to join something that's a little different. Yes, there will be meals there, but the meals that are going to be offered are different than an older adult center. They will have to comply with nutritional standards, but there's more choice. So there could be choices between entrees and then also having some lighter bites, such as sandwiches, soups, different types of beverages and snacks. So exactly what you think of like going into a coffee shop, that's the kind of vibe that these pop-up cafes should be going for. The menus would be submitted on simple serving. So over the next month, we could work together to build that menu. And while we're building the menu, we could also talk about some of the permits. So applying for a permit to operate, you would have to do so because you're going to be serving food here. You'll have to purchase necessary equipment that's outlined in your budget. You'll also, if you are going with catering or with a food truck, You'll have to submit subcontractor approval forms. So these are things that you probably have done before for some of your other sites. So it's nothing too surprising. And another component of this is volunteers, right? You want to bring on volunteers, which you already do in your OACs, because you're going to need help running this. And to do all of this, we want to make sure we're doing it before 12/1. That way you could open up in December and we're ready to go. So this month we'll be focusing on setting up. And the goal is to get an average of 10 new daily participants a day. So it's outreach. So there's going to be a lot of outreach, which the research team will talk more about, because the outreach is going to be done by them mainly. So they'll explain to you how that process works. And that's really it. I mean, the goal, right? We're going to attract more people in the network, right? Hopefully they're going to go to these pop-up cafes for 6 months, for a year, and then they're going to love it. They're going to hear about the New York City Aging, right? The network and what they offer, and then they may be inclined to join an OAC that's nearby. So it's kind of like a pitch, right? We're pitching them to join the network and to get more services. And then if Anya, if you want to talk a little about the programming, and Rachel, besides the meals, right? Because we're not just offering meals, there'll be other services as well.
Yes. So each day that your pop-up cafe is open, you'll be offering cafe style dining, like Esther said, with the idea being that you offer a full, what makes up a full simple servings meal, but people don't have to take each component. And then also you would have an activity on site. This is a little bit this is a little bit more open-ended than at the older adult center, in terms of like units, and everything kind of counts under different categories. So you would just want to plan for at least one activity on site, and just to confirm, no virtual activities, because this is all about having kind of a small cafe style. And so you would want to have either a nutrition education session, a health promotion session, another kind of education session, or even if it's like a craft activity, or maybe it's painting or something like that, just like kind of like an activity, preferably after lunch, so that they come for lunch and then stay, or if it works for you better than before, either way, to kind of make sure that there's something else for the participants to stay for, something also that they're interested in, that your population is interested in. Then you would keep a sign-in sheet, just for us to know that you did that activity each day, and also to see who's coming. So any questions about that?
My question is actually more with registration. How entailed are all the registrations? Because, comparing it with how we register folks at the OACs, it could get very entailed. But if we're looking to kind of have people come very quickly and be able to have a meal and maybe do one activity, I'm just wondering in terms of, how that would look like.
So, yes, sorry. Can you just repeat the last part? Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it depends on research, Jackie, what information you guys need. Like how much, is it just basic demographics or?
So, we're going to be talking in a little bit, and some of it will clarify, because we're still in the process of clarifying how it'll be reported. Howsoever, we're going to need the information recorded within our database. So currently STARS when we move over. So yes, I think to highlight what Esther said, the goal are new participants, right? So when we talk about outreach, and we'll get to, Manoj will get much more into that, it's not outreach at your OACs, right? The goal is not to bring in the same people that already go to our OACs. The goal is to bring in people who are new to our network, right? So when you go to register, you're right, we're going to need you if there could be some people that, go to your program and maybe they haven't been to an OAC in a long time. And so they may actually be in the system. So you'll be looking just like any other new participant, you'll be searching and you see them and that's fine. And so that's some of that information will already be there. For those individuals where it's new, we will need you to put in that information, but it's really not, it's demographic information. We will need you to, fill out the event profile so that we know what sort of activities they're doing and that sort of thing. So that'll definitely be very important. And some of that will be fleshed out, how the mechanics of how you're going to do it a little bit later on.
Does that answer your question, Diana?
It does, but I think this is something, I guess, does Jackie saying we're gonna kind of have to wait and see because I asked this question because my concern is as we're kind of trying to get folks to join, and this is something that's not going to be for the whole day, and like I said, it's a pop-up. Right, it's a pop-up. So how much time then are we thinking about allocating to kind of just sit with an individual one by one to do the registration process? Like I said, in terms of the OACs, and I understand this is separate, it could get very entailed. And so that's something that would be expected, or is this a much quicker process, just getting a few of the information, some of the demographics, and then they could kind of be on their way where they could receive the meal, join the activity, and then we're on to the next person. But I guess this is something we'll have to wait.
And Diana, some of the stuff we do with the OACs is regulated by NYSOFA, some of the questions we ask. So because this is not NYSOFA funding, I think automatically there's certain things that don't have to necessarily be done that you have to do normally. But we can I think we understand the struggle, even with the OACs, that's something we're looking at, is how do we pare down that intake. So so I think once we know more about what's needed for research purposes, because they might want to know income, like they might want to know that stuff. I mean, obviously if people are willing to give it, but those demographics, but I think we, we'll be mindful, and whatever we don't have to ask, I think we can try to, keep it as simple as possible for your point. That it's very, it's not a big program, right? You just want them to come. You don't want them to turn away because they don't want to fill out the form.
Exactly.
I have actually a question about the registration and new participants. The whole purpose of this pop-up cafe is to, let and, attract the new participant to join and the current, older adults centers services. But when we actually, based on my experience and my community, when we outreach and promote this pop-up cafe services, I'm sure that even existing members will drop by. And also currently in the community, our community are widespread. For example, we have one satellite office in Manhattan, and once a week we open satellite older adult center services. They probably might want to join like a Tuesday, Thursday, but they are already registered and existing participants. So in the registration, when we scan, so our current, peer place and start should have enough, function to update and this new participants. If the existing participants still join to the new pop-up cafe, we cannot, say you cannot come here, right? They still can come.
Yeah, I think that,
I just want to let you know, and although our entire purpose is to have and attract more new participants, but through this pop-up cafe, we might find out other, discoveries about current, older adults, tendency.
So Helen, I hear you, and certainly we don't want to send people away, but remember the number of meals that you'll be doing each day is very small. So that if it ends up that 90% of the meals, just making up numbers, go to current participants, that's going to be a problem because it goes against what we put forth in the grant. It goes against the goal of the grant, and there's going to be an issue when we get to the evaluation. We're really not going to be able, not that, there's not then a real need, but, they're meeting that need other places as well. So I think we're going to have to really look at it, because if it ends up that you do all your serving and you expend everything to people that are already in the network, then that really isn't the goal of the grant. So, we should really sort of take a look at that as we move forward.
Yes, you're right. Yes,
Yeah. And one of the things, oh, sorry. I was going to say, one of the things we talked about doing is being able to pull reports from STARS periodically to kind of see the makeup of who's coming, so that we could then have a discussion if there seems to be more already, more participants already within our network, to talk about, well, what can we do best to attract new older adults to this site and things like that. So we can try to kind of look at that along as we go, so that we can try to, try to entice older adults from without the network. Helen, did you have anything else?
No. So I think we're up to the research part, which is why we initiated this meeting to begin with. So we have Dr. Manoj, Jackie, Rosemary, Megan. So if you guys want to talk about the research component of this grant, because that's the main thing, actually. The pop-up cafes are what the research will be based on. So you guys can take it away.
Jackie, you want to start first?
Well, I think probably, Manoj, you can talk about the design of what we're trying to do, just to remind everyone. So this is a research grant. So the research component is really important. It was submitted, it's not a program grant, it's a research grant. And so we're really researching the impact of these pop-up cafes. So I just want to make sure that everyone's sort of on the same page. We're really excited to introduce the pop-up cafes and to be able to look at the impact in terms of who we're serving and need and outcome and all of that. So Manoj, do you want to give sort of the broad strokes of what we're thinking about? And, it could change a little bit because, with all good research, you have all these great ideas, and then, the real world happens and we have to, course correct a little bit. But Manoj, take it away.
So our goal is, we believe that nutrition programs are important, and they definitely have positive impact on the lives, the health and well-being of older adults. And we realize that not everybody goes to older American centers or senior centers for their nutrition programs. There are probably areas where people don't have access, or even if they do, that's not something that they want to be part of. So these pop-up sites are a wonderful opportunity to test, if nutrition programs offered in an innovative manner could attract older adults who otherwise wouldn't go to nutrition programs. So what we want to do is look at cohorts. We want to get people, so DFTA has a database of names and addresses of folks who have in various parts contacted DFTA for information. Am I right? Jackie, what's the name of that database?
So right now, everyone uses STARS, and for this year, it'll be STARS. Moving forward, it'll be a different system. But yes, we have an information of everyone who is connected somehow to NYC Aging, whether they've gone to an OAC currently or previously, whether they've reached out to New York Connects or Aging Connect or for services and don't go to an OAC. All of that is within our data system.
So what we would like to do is recruit older adults through this database and send them information, randomly select them. So some would get information on the pop-up sites in their neighborhood. And we're still trying to figure out whether we do it neighborhood by neighborhood or borough by borough. For those of you who are from New York, boroughs can be really large, but we're trying to figure we might start with neighborhood where the pop-up site is and try to reach seniors in that neighborhood. If we think that that sample is too small or selective, we might broaden it a little bit. So that's what I think Jackie was referring to. Some of these things need to be refined a little further. And Jackie and Rosemary, interrupt me because I know we talked about it. So if I'm making a mistake, let me know. We want to send randomly to people information about pop-up sites and hope they're excited about it and that they go to those pop-up sites. We also want to send information to another sample cohort about the senior center or the older American center in their neighborhood and talk about that and send them there as well. The goal is to get people who have not been going to nutrition programs. Now, in our sample, could we run into people who might have in the past gone to an older American center but haven't? So we're going to try to limit that and control for that. We'll say people who have not gone to an older American center since the start of COVID 2020. We'll assume them as new members of an older American center, so to speak, or a pop-up site. And the goal is once we know that they're going, we'll also give them information about the research study that we're doing. And then we'll do a two-prong approach. Once they show up at the Older American Center or at the pop-up site, we'll also collect information. I know people were concerned about how much information to collect, but we definitely want contact information. And we might wait for them to come back more than once to either the Older American Center or the pop-up site. And we're still working out the logistics of us. We're going to send a letter to everybody that starts attending either the pop-up site or the older American site. And then there's going to be a third sort of control group, which is people who don't go to either because for whatever reason they've chosen that's not something of their interest. We would then send them a letter talking about our research study. There is incentives to pay people for interviews. We'd like to interview people maybe 3 times in 1 year, where at the start and then midway through their participation or lack of participation, and then at the end of the year. And what we want to really do is figure out, what do they do when they get there? Are there any activities or programs, even if they're limited, that they participate in? And of course, we have a series of standardized instruments that we selected from the RFP about health, nutrition, knowledge of nutrition, activities of daily living, mental and physical, emotional health, and so on. And so we're going to use those to track these participants or non-participants for a year. And then we would do the same sort of recruitment cycle every year for the period or duration of this grant, which is, I believe, 5 years. Am I right? Did I get it right?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll jump in.
The only thing I was going to end with is one of the other logistics is what if they start to go to a pop-up site and then love the senior center as well? Or what if they're going to the senior center? I think Helen asked that, and then they go to the pop-up site. I was a senior center director. Some of our senior members are very resourceful and they'll figure out the menus and go more than one place. That's fine. I don't think we could stop that. We want to encourage people to seek out services. We'll just have to control for that in our study. And I'll stop with that and let Jackie and Rosemary take over.
Right. So that's right. We're going to do the same process each year. We'll start fresh looking at our database. One thing that came up had to do with outreach. So, one of the things that comes up is that, what we have in our database are people that are already connected. And we know that there are a lot of people, a lot of older adults in New York City that don't know about our services at all or never connected. So, it's totally fine when you're in your community to be able to, do some outreach to that specific community. Again, not to your OACs, not specifically, you don't put up flyers in your OACs and that, but if you're in a particular, like I know that, I think Diana, you're talking about one complex for older adults,
Yes.
right? So that's
Right.
fine. You can, try to do some outreach within that complex, because it's likely that there are a lot of older adults that, don't even know about us. And that's a huge benefit, that's great. And then you'll enroll them when they come. So, but we definitely are going to start with looking at individuals that meet that know about our agency, that are able to go to an older adult center, meaning that they're not homebound, but haven't been to an older adult center since 2020, right? So that's who we're going to start looking at, and that'll be the basis for the study component. And as Manoj said, then we're randomly going to sample. We're going to be doing, extensive interviews. Manoj is going to hire staff to be able to do that. So you're not going to have to worry about it. We might at some point, reach out to you if we're trying to reach a member, or we're like, hey, we're trying to encourage certain people to be part of the study. We'll let you know. But, we're going to have the resources to be able to do that. And of course, we know that, there's going to be a need to translate and have, bilingual, bicultural interviewers, so very well aware of that. The standardized scales that Manoj talked about, they were selected from a preordained list from ACL. So it's not like, so there was a selection of different things, and we had to select one from a certain category. So, but, we're doing as much as possible to keep the onus away from older adults, so that the survey won't be super long, and the interviews will likely be a lot over the phone, although I think some interviewers might go to the pop-ups and try to talk to people there as well. So I'm going to stop here. I don't know if there are questions, or again, Manoj or Rosemary, did anything else need to be mentioned?
I think you covered most of it. We're working on figuring out that database and what geography is best for our outreach. But yeah, if you have any questions about the research, we're here. You can email us if things come up.
Or ask away.
Yeah.
I have a question that may come up in terms of the recruitment. So during this month, when they are going to be working on setting up the sites, are you guys going to be the main people doing the recruitment, or should the providers be putting up flyers around the pop-up? Or do you want to hold off on that until the pop-up cafe opens and you see the numbers, and then you'll take it from there?
That they were paid 10:30.
I think it's the other way. So I think we have the list of we have this database. And so depending on where the pop-ups are opening up, we're going to have to run queries through this STARS database and identify folks to send letters to tell them about the pop-up. And in one group, and another random group might get the senior center or the older American center information. So it's kind of in sync. It's a lot of moving parts all at once. Yeah. And then we also talked about that there may be people that just walk off the street into the pop-up site because they happen to be out there and they saw something. And so we'll need the help of the staff at these pop-up sites to say, hey, this person has come in twice. And they might also then be encouraged to join our research study. But mainly we're going to start with the database first.
Okay, so for this month, the providers should hold off on doing any sort of outreach, correct? You're going to be doing it internally, the research team.
I don't want to speak for DIFTA and what it would do for the centers.
I think that we have to, everything is in parallel. So you're starting to put things up, but I don't know that Manoj is going to be really ready to go until December, when he can hire and he can interview. So I just want to make sure we're sort of aligned. I guess what I would say is, maybe we need to see what our numbers look like when we look at our database. If we look at our database and we go, oh my gosh, in this community, they're there are very few people, it's going to be an issue from the research, then we could reach out to you individually and say, oh yeah, maybe flyer in that community or something.
Right. Yeah, because I think that question came up from the providers. And Diana, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Will there be any kind of information that will be given to us so that we can give out to those that are joining, for the fact that this is a research or this is part of a research? Because I think so far the way our approach has been is that this is more of a program, and really the research piece hasn't been mentioned or highlighted. So, we'd like to be transparent about that.
The thing is, because yes, so we'll give out flyers that, that alert people that they might be contacted. We don't want everyone to think that they're part of the research study because we have limited resources and we have to pay for these interviews. So within a sample, now if the sample is really small, it's likely that all of them will be in it. But if it's larger, it will be a subset of that group.
Yeah, I think we can, work together to put together, flyers. But I think, as Manoj said, we want to, if you're going to do some outreach, we certainly want to advertise the pop-up, and then it could be just, you may, as he said, you may be asked to participate, because if it's a larger community, someone might not be asked. So although, that may not be the case, so we'll see.
Because having done a senior center impact study, what happened was for the directors of the senior centers then got the bulk of angry seniors saying, how come I'm not in this study? My friend got $60 for 3 interviews. So we want to minimize the headache for you that you're like, wait, I didn't choose anybody. So that sort of thing.
Any other questions?
I mean, later on, we really need kind of tailored guideline for the meal and the simple snack for this pop-up cafe, because yes.
And we'll work on that, Helen, this month. Over simple servings. We'll build, because from what I understand, Corona will be cooking for the pop-up cafe. So I could work with you and with the chef there to build a simple but exciting menu that will work for the space.
Yeah, and we actually thinking about, because it's going to be like a different menu and more creative. So not like a conventional way of current older adult centers we serve. This meal, although we prepare at the Corona, because probably the pop-up cafe site is going to be nearer than the current Flushing site, we also want to know in nutrition aspect that we can use frozen meals, so we can reheat at the site, like like the Starbucks, they just reheat some kind of frozen
Right.
meal,
I mean, we'll talk off after the meeting. We could talk next week about building a menu that works. Like, we wouldn't want you to buy like a frozen, I mean, if you're going to be doing the cooking and freezing some things, that could work, but we would want to have some fresh options, some things that they're not used to seeing at the OAC. But still easy. We'll definitely talk when we're ready to build the menu. And remember, it's only twice a week. So you only have to come up with like very few meal ideas, from week after week. But does anyone have any other questions? I see Jose's still here about the budget or the research or the meals or the programs. I know Jose said he'll set up individual meetings to go over the budget more in depth with each provider. And I'm sure we're all going to be talking a lot this month about starting to set up the site. So All right. And this is recorded, so we'll send this to all of you, and then we'll follow up about the sites. I know I reached out to you, Diana, and Mo had reached out to Ozma about the sites to see if they're still available for this project.
Yeah, we're still waiting to hear from them.
Okay.
Just to confirm, but we have a backup just in the event. We're waiting from someone else, but we'll talk further.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Mhm.
Thank you. And Mohad,
Thanks,
I know you,
everyone.
yeah.
Oh, did you
I
have a
don't know,
question, Esther?
Mohad, I know you guys are still waiting, right, to hear back from, Ozma was saying you're still waiting to hear back from the church.
Yes, that is my understanding as well.
Okay, all righty, but we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the
Thank
time to
you.
meet with
Have a
us
good
today.
weekend.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.